Raphael with NBA Draft Junkies back again. And I've had a little bit more time to digest and analyze the 2020 NBA Draft. I did my draft grades for the Atlantic Division, but now I'm back for the Central Division. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment. Plenty of draft content coming soon. It's not over. I still got a couple more things for the 2020 draft, and then I'll be done. Can't wait to be finished because I'm really looking forward to taking a deep dive into the 21 draft. But let's get started. Central Division, first team I want to discuss is the Chicago Bulls. And at number 4, they selected Patrick Williams out of Florida State. And this was the biggest shocker to me. I did not see Patrick Williams going number 4. I saw the rumors that he could go as high as number 7. I saw that his stock was rising. I just personally didn't see it. I always felt the draft started at number 4, and Williams going number 4 for me just pretty much threw off my whole mock draft. I'm still shocked. I'm still stunned. I'm curious to see how it works out with Chicago, especially if Williams' best position long-term is as a 4. I know it's kind of weird to say long-term because he's very, very young, one of the youngest players in this draft class, because I think he's a 4, like I mentioned. But right now, I guess on opening night, I don't even see him as a starter. I still think they'll start Otto Porter at the 3, Lloyd Marketing at the 4. Obviously, things could change between now and opening day because this offseason has already been crazy, even though it just started. But Williams has a high upside. I could see him as a switchy combo forward that can defend 3s and 4s. I think that there's room for growth as far as him being an outside shooter. He does have a decent pull-up game. He just fits the modern-day NBA combo forward. And right now there's a lot of value on guys that can defend multiple positions and knock down open shots. There are some videos circulating on the internet that shows him playing some pickup basketball and just showing a little bit more creativity that we saw at Florida State. Again, the pick is a shocker to me. I don't think he starts on opening day, which is not a big deal because he didn't start at Florida State, which is kind of crazy considering a guy that didn't start for his college team ends up as the 4th pick in the draft. So curious to see how it works out and just the role that he'll end up playing as a rookie. But Patrick Williams at number 4 was the biggest shocker to me. At number 44, the Bulls selected Marko Simonovic out of Serbia. He's an inside-outside threat, shot over 50% from the floor, 40% from 3. And the man that's running the Chicago Bulls came from Denver, and he had some success with a previous Serbian big man that was selected in the 2nd round. Nikola Jokic ended up being an all-NBA player, total superstar. So we'll see if he can duplicate that success. I mean, it'd be close to impossible, but it's happened before. But overall, I think Simonovic would be a draft and stash candidate. So for this draft, I'm giving the Chicago Bulls a C+. Next up is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And at number 5, they selected Isaac Okoro out of Auburn. I thought this pick was a little high, even though I had him going number 6 in one of my mock drafts. But I didn't think Cleveland would take him at number 5. I thought they would go with someone like Avdia. But Okoro, another guy that has a high upside, coming off a strong freshman year at Auburn. He's a winner. I mean, if you look at his winning percentage from high school to AU to at Auburn, you see that this guy just wins. He has the intangibles. Defense is his calling card. He is a strong physical defender that should be able to defend multiple positions. I think he's already NBA ready from that aspect. Shooting is the biggest concern. He needs to obviously become a better shooter. I thought that his confidence in his shot was probably the biggest issue because he wasn't confident at all. There were times where he would pass some open looks to pass it to a teammate that was covered, but he's had a long offseason to work on his shot. He should be able to come in and be Cleveland's starting small forward from day one. I think Cedi Osman is the only obstacle in his way there, but I think with how high he was selected at number 5, they're probably going to pencil him in as a starter. Honestly, I would have went with Denny Avdia here. I felt like Avdia is a good defender, not as good of a defender, but I think on the offensive end of the floor, he'll provide some balance. As I've mentioned on previous podcasts, I'm not a big fan of this small shoot-first backcourt, but I do think that Cleveland needs to give the backcourt another year before they decide to make any decisions. So, yeah, I would have went with Avdia here, but Only time will tell if it was the right choice. But overall, I give the Cavaliers a C in selecting Isaac Okoro at number 5. The Detroit Pistons had a very, very interesting draft night and just interesting last few days. At number 7, they selected Killian Hayes. Killian was my number 1 point guard in this draft class. I thought that the fit with Detroit was perfect. I had him going to Detroit in both of my mock drafts. He could be their opening day starter. He could play next to Derrick Rose. Based off the way the roster is looking today, I don't know what's going on with the Pistons, and I'm having a hard time understanding some of their choices in free agency. But I imagine Killian and Rose are going to start together in the dual point guard lineup. Just off the top of my head, I don't know who the 2 is right now in Detroit. Like I said, they've had some interesting choices in free agency, but I think Hayes is an excellent fit there. I think he's going to be the face of the Pistons going forward. They're pairing him with last year's number 1 pick in Sekou Doumbouya, who now faces a crowded front court or wing position because they've added Josh Jackson, Jeremy Grant, amongst other guys. So I originally thought that Sekou would be penciled in as a starter because he was drafted so high last year, but this is a new front office, so I really don't know what to expect. But like I said, he should be their opening day starting point guard. I love his upside as a scorer and playmaker, one of the best passers in this draft. Little left-hand dominant, but he was fun to watch. So Killian Hayes at number 7 for Detroit I thought was an excellent choice. At number 16, Isaiah Stewart, a center out of Washington. This was the biggest surprise for me. I didn't see him going higher than 20 on a lot of mock drafts, and to see him at number 16 was something I definitely wasn't expecting. He's a throwback player, kind of an old school physical banger. I think that if this was the 2000 draft instead of 2020, he's a top 5 pick. But I love his energy. He'll provide toughness, rebounding, and man, does this guy have a motor. He runs the floor hard, just puts it all on the court. I think that there's always room in the NBA for high motor, high energy guys that can come in and rebound, play a little D. A little undersized at 6'9", but he has a reported 7'4" wingspan that makes up for his lack of height. But he should be able to just come in and provide some toughness, energy, and rebounding for Detroit. I thought 16 was a little high. And then after selecting him at number 16, Detroit went out and added Jahlil Okafor, Mason Plumlee. So I don't know how much time he gets there. I don't know if they're projecting Plumlee to be their starting center or Okafor. I don't know what's going on in Detroit, but Isaiah Stewart at number 16, again, I thought was pretty high. At number 19, the Detroit Pistons selected Saddiq Bey out of Villanova. Now, Bey was someone who I thought would go at number 16 to Portland. He slipped 3 spots for me, but I love this guy's game. I love what he brings to the table. I love his versatility, his outside shooting. I think he's a very underrated passer, can play a little bit of point forward, can defend multiple positions. I think long-term his best position is playing the 4, which doesn't make sense because, again, like I mentioned, Detroit has added a bunch of guys who I feel are somewhat tweeners, which tweener is a good thing in today's NBA, but I feel like they're tweeners that are more 4s than 3s. So he joins a crowded front court with Josh Jackson, Jeremy Grant, Sekou Doumbouya, and now you add Saddiq Bey. Again, it's third time I'm saying it. Interesting how this Detroit lineup pans out. But I like the Saddiq Bey fit. I'm hoping that Detroit focuses a lot on development and just lets the young guys play. But I'd love to see Bey come in and get a lot of developmental minutes. I mean, I think that on certain teams he could be a starter, especially like in Minnesota. I would love to see him at the Wolves at number 17. I think he could come in and possibly start at the 4 spot for them. But then he goes to Detroit where he could possibly be buried behind the bench because I know Grant is going to play. They just paid him like $60 million. So, again, curious to see how everything pans out in Detroit. And then another shocker to me at number 38 was Saben Lee out of Vanderbilt. Now, Lee was not on a lot of draft boards. I actually scouted him, and I just thought that he was a Troy Weaver pick. He is a freak athlete, super bouncy, super athletic. And when I say he's a Troy Weaver pick, Weaver has a reputation for loving super athletic, combo guards or point guards. He was in Oklahoma City when they drafted Russell Westbrook. That's why I heard there were rumors that he liked R.J. Hampton a lot. But Lee is a good playmaker. Shooting is his weakness, but man, his physical tools, his athleticism, his passing is something that I really like to gamble. 38 was definitely something that I did not see. I thought that he could possibly go undrafted, selected in the 50s. I thought he was a great two-way candidate. So, in my opinion, this is somewhat of a reach, but I like to gamble here. I really like to gamble, especially if Detroit is really confident in their developmental staff. So, again, I like to pick. Overall, with Detroit's picks, I felt like Killian was a home run. I thought it was a reach for Stewart. I thought they got good value at number 19 for Bay. I thought it was a reach for Lee, but I'll give the Detroit Pistons a C. All right, at number 54, the Indiana Pacers only had one pick, Cassius Stanley out of Duke. We all know Stanley is a freak athlete, super bouncy, highlight reel, loves to get on the open floor. This is a pick that's based off of his potential as a 3-and-D player. I mean, obviously, 3-and-D wings are highly valued. I think this is a pretty good value pick here. They got him so late in the draft, but it all depends on his jump shot. He shot a respectable 36% from 3, so he's not far off from being a pretty reliable shooter. We'll see if it translates to the NBA, but I thought this was a good pick for the Pacers. I'll give them a C+ just off the value they got with Cassius Stanley out of Duke. So C+ for the Indiana Pacers. All right, last, it is the Milwaukee Bucks at number 45. I thought they got great value out of Jordan Nwora from Louisville. He is he might be a 3-4, but I think he could be possibly a 4. But in Milwaukee, it doesn't matter because he's going to be used as a floor spacer. He shot over 40% from 3 for his career. He's a very underrated but strong rebounder. He does have some potential to put the ball on the floor, but I like that fit in Milwaukee. I mean, based off of their roster today and how they've been playing the last few years, they're just going to need floor spacers, and that's what he does. At number 60, the Milwaukee Bucks selected Merrill out of Utah State. I think this was a pretty good value pick, especially at the very, very end of the draft. He's an efficient scorer that can contribute in a lot of ways. I mean, he was able to fill the stat sheet in college with his points, rebounds, and assists. He's a little old. He's 24, so he's like 5 years older than some of the players in this draft, maybe even 6. 5.5, 6 years older than some of the players in this draft. So he's more, I guess, closer to his prime than a lot of the guys. I don't know if he cracks Milwaukee's rotation this year, but he could. You know, if Milwaukee makes a trade, like, for example, if the Bogdanovich trade would have came through, then their bench would have been depleted. I think they would have only had like 7 guys on the roster. So they would have needed to fill out the roster with a bunch of cheap contracts. So I think in that case, he would have been able to make the team and possibly get some minutes. But depending on if they make a move or not, he could make the roster. He could be in the G League. But I like the pick. I mean, I think that he should be able to make their team. And if he can shoot the ball, Milwaukee is always going to need shooters around Giannis. But I think that he can make plays for others. So I thought this was a pretty good pick. So for Milwaukee, where they were selecting at, they moved down. I'll give them a B- for their 2 picks.